him. We can relate to him. Oh, he gets angry. I know it's not really true, but I can kind of connect to that because I'm an angry person. So then, oh, if someone else is angry, oh, I like that person. We got something in common, right? I mean, I usually, the same kind of weaknesses that I have, I connect to those people. Not always. Sometimes I hate them for having my weaknesses, but never mind. Okay, but I guess so. You're right, absolutely. When Dalai Lama describes anger, it's because he has such great perception. The only reason we cannot know other people's mind is because we are so preoccupied with ourselves. Right? We're so preoccupied with ourselves. And it's, you see, like the moment you evolve, it's not like you're an ordinary person and suddenly you're Buddha. It's not like you go from knowing only yourself, and if we're aware of our own mind, right? But let's say you know your own mind to some degree, and then suddenly you know everyone's. There's a gradual process where you become more aware of other people around you, what they feel, their gestures. It becomes more aware. You perceive more and more and more. You perceive other people's minds. I mean, I'm sure there's some great, highly bodhisattvas, like there's some highly evolved bodhisattvas who know a lot of people's mind. They're not omniscient yet, but they know a lot of people's mind, and they know exactly what we're going through. And that's why these incredible lamas are so effective, because they have clairvoyance. We should rely on a lama who has clairvoyance, on someone who has high realizations. To just rely on someone as a teacher, that's a different thing. It's actually like a friend, like a Dharma friend. That's a different matter. But on a real teacher, a real lama is someone who has some clairvoyances, some clairvoyant abilities, who knows your mind. And then it's more effective. Oh, I know what you're thinking. All right, the antidote is this. Okay? Yes.
I just want to say that clairvoyance is beyond sentient being mind. And all of us sitting here, as similar as we are so different. I mean, if you just take the truck, no one sees the truck the way I see the truck.
Absolutely not.
No
I
one.
totally agree. I agree. But we all agree that we see a truck.
All of those differences are enormous. It's so enriching to know that.
Right.
But we don't allow for it.
Yes.
And I think this is also a problem. We don't allow, with our similarities, our differences.
Yes, she's absolutely right. She's absolutely right. We all perceive something totally uniquely different, just by way of the reason that we all sit in different spots. Okay? Even if we sat on top of each other, we'd always be in a different place. We have different eyes, we have different preconception, absolutely right. But due to our perception of inherent existence, we somehow think everyone else is the same. Deep inside, we feel that way. Intellectually, we know. You're right. But still, we could say there is a common kind of ground. And then there are beings who develop their mind to such a degree, and they're still called sentient beings who are clairvoyant. So the term is still applied that you know a little bit more. We call it superhuman knowledge. It's actually not superhuman. Just in relation to us, it's superhuman. Okay? It's actually, for them, it's just an ordinary feat. And then you become a Buddha. And no sentient being is omniscient. Yeah. So in that sense, yes. Okay. Can we leave it at that first? Does it have to be? Okay.
Once I heard that what the Buddha sees, he sees conventional truth or the experience through our mind. Is the true or...
I'll talk about this in a while. I'm glad you remind me, but it's, Anyway, okay. So, therefore, I hope this is clear. So none of the three beings' awarenesses apprehend phenomena to exist inherently anymore. The three arhats. Because they've eliminated the concealer ignorance. Therefore, for them, sometimes fabrications or conventional truth, fabrications like merely imputed, it's called like a fabrication of conventional truth. Fabrication here means basically a conventional truth. They are not truth, but mere conventionalities. So the word mere eliminates truth. Okay, so relative to the perspective of those three beings. Relative to the perspective of those three beings, conventional truth are mere conventionalities, because even though they appear to them to exist inherently, they do not apprehend to exist in that way. Okay? Ignorance is gone. So if you please look at the Hebrew, I think you can do it simultaneously with me. I want to read now, because this is language, it's more precise than when I just explain it. And we don't have much time. On what page is it when it says, for instance, the reflection of a face in the mirror is a truth or a non-deceptive phenomenon? Okay, 23. For instance, so now I take the example again, the everyday kind of example. The reflection of a face in a mirror is a truth or non-deceptive phenomenon relative to the perspective of those who have not learned yet that the reflection of a face in a mirror is not a face. Does that make sense? Okay. However, relative to the perspective of those who have understood that the reflection of the face is not a face, the reflection of a face is not a truth, but a deceptive phenomenon. It's like a mere conventionality in that sense. Relative to the perspective of those people, the reflection is a deceptive phenomenon because even though it appears to them to be a face, they do not apprehend it to be a face. Right, same thing. Okay. However, even though relative to the perspective of those three beings, conventional phenomena are mere conventionalities, this does not mean that relative to the perspective of these three beings, conventional phenomena are not conventional truth. They're still conventional truth. The word mere conventionality does not eliminate conventional truth. It just eliminates truth. Okay? So there's still conventional truth. It's not like they're not conventional. There's still conventional truth. But not truth for their concealers, but for other people's concealers. Does that make sense? So, those who have overcome afflictive ignorance realize that conventional phenomena are truth for the ignorant consciousnesses of other beings. Therefore, even for them, they're still conventional truth. But on top of that, they're also mere conventionalities.
Can you stop for a minute?
Yeah.
Because I understand that a mere conventionality is for saying not conventional truth, right?
No. Mere conventionality. Okay, if now you are an arhat, you have
merely labeled,
let me just say, wait, just one second, maybe it clarifies it. You're an arhat now. Michael is an arhat. Okay? He's just become an arhat. So he has no ignorance anymore. Now for Michael, this truck is a mere conventionality. Why? Because the word mere eliminates truth. He doesn't have a mind anymore that grasps this to be truly existent, inherently existent. So for you, this is a mere conventionality because it still appears that way, but you don't believe in it anymore. So, is it for you still a conventional truth? Yeah, that too. Because though the mere conventionality, it's a mere conventionality. The word mere only eliminates that to be a truth. So for me, as an ordinary being, this is not a conventional truth. This is a truth.
So as an arhat, I know that for you, as a conventional human being, this is a conventional truth.
No, it's a truth for her.
No. For me, I'm ordinary. You're the arhat. I have ignorance. You don't. For me, this is not a conventional truth. This is a truth. This exists the way it appears to me. To you, this is a conventional truth and a mere conventionality. It's not a truth anymore.
It's a conventional truth when I think about how you see it, and it's a...
Yes. It's a conventional truth because it is a truth from my ignorance.
Because I recognize that conventionally it's considered to be a truth. Although I don't see it as a truth.
Not conventional, because conventionally means exist. No, it is, for us, mistaken people, it is a truth. Yeah, for us, mistaken people, it is a truth. When you say conventionally, it means that it's actually a truth. This is conventionally a truck, because it's actually a truck. But it's not conventionally inherently existent, just because we think so. Okay? Just because we think the world is round, doesn't make it, world is flat, doesn't make it conventionally a flat earth. Okay? Even as a convention, we assert certain things, doesn't mean that is true. Okay? But if we assert this is a truck, and it is a truck. Right? Okay. So the body of a snake being a snake conventionally exists. The rope being a snake does not conventionally exist, even though everyone thinks so. Does that make sense? Miri? I lost you? No, I didn't. Okay, good. So, alright, so if that's understood. So me, I'm the ordinary person with ignorance and the appearance. He's the arhat. To me, this is a truth. The truck is a truth. To me, this is not a conventional truth. Why? Because I'm not aware that this is actually a false object. Conventional truth means something that's false. It appears one way but exists in a different way. I don't know that. You know that. To you, this is a false object, a falsity, a conventional truth, and it's a mere conventionality. Both. Does that make sense? It's a conventional truth because it's a truth from my ignorance. It's a mere conventionality because for you, it's not a truth. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Where did I get to? Okay. So, however, even though relative to the perspective of those three beings, okay, so other beings, furthermore, they also remember how conventional phenomena previously appeared to their own ignorant awarenesses. So they could also say, oh, this is a conventional truth, because previously to my ignorance, it was a truth. Previously to mine, because previously, before you had ignorance. So previously to your previous ignorance, it was a truth, right? In that sense, okay. Therefore, relative to the perspective of the three beings, conventional phenomena are both conventional truth and mere conventionalities. Okay, what are they for Buddhas? What are they for me, as the ordinary person? Truth. What are they for the Arhat Michael?
Conventional. Mere conventional.
What are they for Buddha Rita?
They have to be both.
Who said that? I heard it. Who heard it? Who said it? What did you say? Why are they truth?
Because it looks the way it's appearing.
They exist the way they appear. Does anyone disagree? They're mere conventionality for the Bodhisattva. They're mere conventionality for the Bodhisattva because they appear to exist in a way in which they don't exist, but there's no apprehension. They're not truth for them anymore.
They do not appear.
To a Buddha, they don't appear anymore? The truck doesn't appear?
It's a knowledge. He knows about it, but he doesn't appear to it.
The truck doesn't appear to the Bodhisattva, to the Buddha?
As the way that you see it.
I am not saying the way it appears. Does the truck appear? Not the way it appears to me, but does the truck appear?
Yes.
Yes, good. The truck appears. So since the truck appears, does it appear to be inherently existent or does it appear to be non-inherently existent?
He sees it both ways.
Does it appear to be inherently existent?
No.
Just yes or no? Does it appear to be inherently existent?
Not only. 2 words. One word, no.
Is this a microphone?
Like
Not only.
Yes.
No, because it's also impermanent. You can say yes, it's a microphone. Because it's, even though, I'm not saying is it only a microphone, I'm just saying is it a microphone? It's also impermanent. So likewise, does this truck appear to the Buddha to be inherently existent?
No.
Good. Does this truck appear to be non-inherently existent to the Buddha? To the Buddha's mind, does this truck to exist non-inherently?
Yes.
If the Buddha sees it through...
No, please, yes or no, yes or no. Does to the Buddha's omniscient mind, okay, I'm sorry, I'm just putting you on the spot. This is in the debate ground, I will tell you,
It's important.
no way. Just yes or no.
Okay.
So, does to the Buddha's omniscient mind, this truck appear to be non-inherently existent?
As far as I know, yes.
Good. That's it. To the Buddha's mind, the truck appears because the truck exists. To the Buddha's mind, this truck appears to be non-inherently existent because the truck is non-inherently existent. To the Buddha's mind, the truck being inherently existent doesn't appear because the truck being inherently existent doesn't exist. But to the Buddha's mind, the appearance of inherent existence appears because the appearance of inherent existence exists.
Yes.
In the mind of the
Yes, in the mind
Of
conventional.
yeah, in my mind, in your mind, and so forth. Does that make sense?
So it has to be both. So
Yes, say it.
Buddha's,
Relative to the perspective of Buddha,
he sees the ultimate nature.
this truck is what? Okay, it's either a truth, a conventional truth, or a mere conventionality. Which of the three is it for a Buddha? It can be more than one. I'm not saying it can only be one.
The truth.
It is a truth because it appears the way it exists, as she says. Is it a conventional truth?
yes.
Yes,
Yes.
because it's a truth for our yes. Is it a mere conventionality?
No.
No, that one it isn't.
No.
It's not a mere conventionality because it's for an arhat. It's a mere conventionality because it appears to exist inherently, which it doesn't, but it's not considered to be a truth anymore.
But Arhat is also a sentient being, and the Buddha sees also the minds of the Arhat, and not only the mind of the...
But that doesn't matter because the way we define mere conventionality is different. We say for someone to be a mere conventionality means that for that person it appears to in a way in which it's not possible, but there's no apprehension of that. Whereas when I say it's a conventional truth, I say it's a conventional truth for that person because they know this is a truth for a different mind. Right? So I just defined it in a specific way. Therefore, for a Buddha, this truck is a truth and a conventional truth. But it's not a mere conventionality, because to the Buddha, it does not appear to exist inherently. He doesn't grasp it to exist inherently. That part is there, but it doesn't appear to be an inherent existence anymore. Does that make sense?
That's the difference between the Buddha and Bodhisattva.
That's the difference between an Arhat Bodhisattva and a Buddha. Not just any Bodhisattva. A Bodhisattva who's become an Arhat. Okay? Yeah. So it's a little complicated, but if you hear this once or twice, it's actually quite straightforward. Yeah? It's just the words are a little confusing. Okay. So, therefore, relative to the... But I didn't put the Buddha in here, because it's not in the text. So this is something you need to figure out yourself. But I'm impressed. That was quick. Relative to the perspective of the three beings, conventional phenomena are both conventional truth, truth for a concealer, and mere conventionalities, because the word mere does not eliminate conventional truth, but truth. So Lama Tsongkhapa says in a text called Ocean of Reasoning, that is Lama Tsongkhapa's, it's actually translated in English. It's called Ocean of Reasoning. It's quite a thick book, and it's a very important text in the Gelugpa study, when you study the Madhyamika. So it's not it's a commentary not on Chandakirti's text, but it's the commentary on Nagarjuna's text, Fundamental Wisdom. Yeah. So this book is the direct commentary. It's considered very important, and it's been translated into English.
It's very difficult.
Pardon?
Very difficult.
Yeah. It's difficult, yes, it's true. It's emptiness. I mean, it's all difficult when it comes to emptiness, but it's still a very important text. And it's beautiful that it's translated it's available in English now. Those who have abandoned the concealer that is afflictive ignorance, okay, arhats, do not have the concealer apprehending true existence, from whose perspective phenomena are posited as truth. Okay, they don't have that ignorance anymore. They don't have the ignorance anymore that from whose perspective all phenomena exist inherently. This proves that compositional phenomena are not truth from their perspective. It does not prove that compositional phenomena are not conventional truth. Therefore, since for those from whose perspective compositional phenomena are mere conventionalities, that is arhats, of the two, conventional and truth is not possible. The word mere of the term mere conventionality eliminates truth. How would it eliminate conventional truth? Very clear. Right? This passage is very clear. Maybe not that clear if I read it just once and you kind of follow and maybe daydream a little bit, but if you read it at your own space, then I think it's very clear. Okay, therefore, childish ordinary beings. Okay, this is a very popular way of describing ordinary beings as childish. Not children, but childish. You know, we're a little bit childish sometimes, as opposed to a bodhisattva. Okay, or highly realized beings. We sometimes do childish things out of our delusions, in that sense. We're not childish in relation to real children, but we're childish, sometimes we are. But usually in terms of someone highly evolved, they don't have the same attachments, the same kind of hatred and so forth. So therefore, ordinary beings are often described as chiba, or actually chiba means child, but I think the word in English it's better, it's like a childish person. So childish ordinary beings are deceived by the appearances of inherent existence. So ordinary beings, so not Michael, who's the Arhat, not Rita, who's the Buddha, but me, the ordinary being, right? And that's to get the three beings, those three, right. She's back to being Buddha. Are deceived by the appearances of inherent existence, whereas from the perspective of the three beings, the three types of arhats, fabricated conventional phenomena are dependently arisen, and thus mere conventionalities. So they have no ignorance anymore, only the appearance is still left. From the perspective of the three beings, fabricated phenomena are mere conventionalities and not truth, because the three beings have eliminated afflictive obscurations. Right? Ignorance and all the delusions that arise from that. Afflictive obscurations are the obstructions that hinder one from reaching the state of an arhat, and they refer to ignorance, the other delusions induced by ignorance, such as anger, attachments, etc., and the seeds, in other words, the potential of ignorance and the other delusions to arise again. Okay? The seeds just means the potential for them to arise again. They have overcome that. However, the three beings are still affected by cognitive obscurations, which are the imprints of the root ignorance and the imprints of the other afflictive emotions induced by the root ignorance. Okay, these are the imprints of ignorance. So actually, there's something Lama Tsongkhapa says, it's kind of interesting. There is, the imprints of ignorance are responsible for what? For the appearance of inherent existence, right? So even though in Arhat, if you still have the imprints, you still have the appearance of inherent existence. The only time you don't have the appearance of inherent existence is when?
Meditation.
Which meditation? Which mind? Mind that perceives, but not conceptually or directly? The mind that directly realizes emptiness. That's the only time when, even to an Arhat, inherent existence doesn't appear. Other than that, what appears to them is exactly what appears to us. Except they don't grasp it to be true anymore. Okay. What was I going to say? Forgot. I was going to explain something.
About childish?
No. I'm done with that. No. Oh yes. Ignorance. That's kind of the imprint of ignorance. But they also talk about the ignorance of anger and the ignorance of attachment, for example. So the imprints of ignorance, the imprints of anger and attachment, we also carry those. And even though, like an Arhat, for example, like if Michael is now an Arhat, even though he has no anger and no attachment anymore, he still has the imprints. And you know what these imprints do? They're also responsible for, of course, not being omniscient. But there's something else that Arhats do because of their imprints. I don't know, maybe you've heard of that. Lama Tsongkhapa says, they jump like monkeys, and sometimes they're abusive. Okay, what does that exactly mean? It means, out of the, you see, when we kind of, like oftentimes, we can't sit still, we want to move, we do things. It's actually out of a type of attachment, right? We want to move things, we want to jump around. Like, sometimes when we have a lot of attachment, we can't sit still, we go up and down. So there's this description that even Arhats, though they've reached the state of an Arhat, they have no ignorance anymore. Because of the imprints of attachment, they sometimes jump like monkeys. That's what it says in the text. So they're not all times calm. It's sometimes the imprints. It's almost like the habit. It's still there. The attachment is not there. The instigator of the jumping around, that is gone. But the jumping around still sometimes happens. Does that make sense? I think it's like a funny, I know it sounds really funny, and it's maybe it's just one example. Maybe there was one very nervous kind of Arhat who had that bit of jumping. I don't know. And it probably there's different cases of it. I mean, I've just seen this one passage, and it's not just Lama Tsongkhapa talks about it, but I remember that specific passage in one of his texts. It's like there's certain things we do out of attachment, and they're expressed by physical behavior. But we may have lost the attachment. In other words, we may have overcome the attachment, but because of the habit, still kind of manifest that physical behavior. Does that make sense? In a very slight, non-harmful way. So it's maybe just kind of jumping all over a little bit. I don't know. I mean, it's very hard because we don't have really many Arhats walking around that we can kind of observe. Or if they walk around, they really don't pretend.
Maybe we have a lot.
Well, I was saying they may pretend, you know. Maybe the monkeys in themselves. But no.
So that would have to be a bodhisattva arhat, because if you have an arhat without remainder, then what's jumping?
Well, there's bodhisattva. No, there's arhats with remainder. So there's arhats who still have the ordinary form. So it could be those. With the bodhisattvas, yeah, maybe you have those too. I mean, it could also be. It just talks about arhats in general. It doesn't specify bodhisattvas and so forth. But you could have arhats with remainder, which just means they still have the ordinary body. And then this body, they became arhats, and they still have that body, so they may be jumping around a little bit, yeah. So because of the imprints, the habit. So these are the imprints from attachment, and maybe even bodhisattvas, you know, on a certain. But the bodhisattvas have already a subtler body. I think it has to do also with having a coarser kind of body, but that I'm not sure about. Never mind, it goes into too many details. But the point is that this can still be there, and the imprint of anger is that sometimes they use harsh speech without wanting to be harmful, but maybe sometimes they're a little bit, what's the word for it? Snappy, that's not exactly harsh, but snappy, a little bit like, boom, you know, like, I don't know. That would be, that's what Lama Tsongkhapa says in the text as an imprint from anger, but it could also manifest in other ways. I don't know, maybe just sometimes have a grumpy face or something. So these are like the imprints from the habit, okay? But the imprints that obstruct us from perceiving all phenomena simultaneously, and therefore included in that from perceiving the ultimate and the conventional truth simultaneously. The imprints that are responsible for that are specifically the imprints of ignorance. Okay? And only a Buddha overcomes those. So, therefore, mere conventionalities do not appear to the three beings while they are absorbed in the meditative equipoise realizing emptiness directly. At that time, it doesn't appear. But they appear to the three beings only during the subsequent times, called subsequent attainment, or subsequent times when awarenesses are tainted by cognitive obscurations. So the meditative equipoise that directly realizes emptiness is not tainted by these imprints, but all the other ones are. The reason for mere conventionalities appearing to the three beings only while being tainted by the cognitive obscurations is that conventional phenomena still appear to them as existing inherently. However, even though they appear to exist inherently during the period of subsequent attainment, the three beings' awarenesses know that conventional truths do not exist the way they appear, which is why, from their perspective, conventional truths are mere conventionalities. I think this is clear, right? It's just kind of... Now, we've kind of covered the ordinary being. We've covered the Arhat. Now let's look at the Buddha. How is it for the Buddha? Very difficult to understand. And we just tried to get, during the last course, I gave a quote. I cited a quote which basically says that when we try to describe the Buddha, we miss the mark. We're 100%, we can be certain that we miss the mark because to describe someone as amazing as the Buddha is actually impossible. But we can get a little closer, if we can get a little bit of a sense at least. Alright? So that's what we're trying to do here, get some sense what it's like for a Buddha. And I've already given this example, but this is really the last here. So the example of the floaters or the cataracts. Okay? Alright, so please bear with me. So we're almost done here. So Chandrakirti says in the supplement to the middle way, through the force of cataract, distorted entities such as falling hair and so forth are imputed or being perceived. What is reality is seen by the one with clear eyes. Likewise, understand this to be the case in this context. And then Chandrakirti says in his self-commentary on that same text, so the same text he has written, he wrote a commentary on his own text later on. Those with cataract erroneously see entities such as falling hairs and so on, even though those without cataract may point out that there are no falling hairs. Those with cataract are incapable of cognizing reality as it is. That is, they're incapable of not seeing hairs or not having hair appearing, in the same way that those people who are free of cataract do not see hairs. Right? So for us, the Buddhas don't have, to them, phenomena don't appear to be inherently existent. They know that phenomena appear to us to be inherently existent. So they see the actual phenomena for what it is. They see the truck for what it is, lacking inherent existence. They see the truck. They see the truck, of course, too. The truck exists, but just not independently. And they see that quality of lacking independent existence at the same time when they see the truck, which we cannot do. Chandrakirti explains with the help of an analogy how ultimate truth are perceived by those who are free from the imprints of the ignorance that apprehends true existence. The analogy is of two people who are looking at a vessel in front of them. So here the Buddha just talks about those sentient beings. Here the text just talks about sentient beings and Buddhas. Sentient beings are like having floaters. All phenomena, it always appears to be like they're falling hair. There appears to be falling hair. One of them is suffering from an eye disease such as cataract or floaters, which induces the appearance of falling hairs. This appearance causes him to repeatedly overturn the vessel in order to remove the hairs. So it's like you're eating something and there's hair in it and you try to overturn it all the time. Ooh, there's something in there. And then the other person is free from that disease and thus free from such appearance. Since he's not affected by the disease, he's able to see what is actually there. That is to say, the emptiness or the absence of falling hairs. Right? Furthermore, even though the person who suffers from the eye disease may eventually be able to realize the emptiness or the absence of falling hairs with a mental consciousness, that's the arhat, he's not able to experience the vessel in front of him in the way the person free from the eye disease does. Make sense? So mentally we can know there's actually no hair there, but it still appears. That's the arhat. In a similar way, when sentient beings and Buddhas look at conventional truths such as the aggregates, the five aggregates, the body and so forth, or the truck, to sentient beings' awarenesses, the aggregate's inherent existence appears, whereas to Buddha's omniscient minds, the aggregate's emptiness of inherent existence appears. The reason for this is that Buddhas are free from afflictive and cognitive obscurations and thus free from any kind of mistaken appearance. Moreover, those sentient beings, all right, now it becomes difficult. Something's difficult. We have to finish off with something difficult. Moreover, those sentient beings are able to directly... So I need to ask you to hold back your questions. I'm sure you go right away, oh, but... Just leave, wait a little bit. Okay. Moreover, those sentient beings are able to directly realize the aggregate's emptiness of inherent existence. With their mental consciousness, they are not able to experience the aggregates in the same way Buddhas do. When Buddhas look at the aggregates, they see the aggregates, and this is a very famous sentence that's used all the time, the aggregate's emptiness by way of not seeing the aggregates. They see the emptiness of the aggregates by way of not seeing the aggregates. So now don't say, do they not see the aggregates? Okay? This will be clear right away. So Chandrakirti says in his auto commentary on the supplement to the Middle Way, the one without eye disease sees the suchness of the falling hair. The other does not. The Buddha does not. Similarly, the entities of the aggregates, elements, sense spheres, and so forth, so all phenomena that are observed by those who, through being affected by the eye disease of ignorance, do not see suchness, are the conventional entities of those phenomena. Their ultimate truth is that which the blessed ones, the Buddhas, who are free from the imprints of ignorance see, through seeing the ultimate nature of those very aggregates and so forth, in the way that one does not have an eye disease sees falling hairs. So someone who does not have an eye disease does not see falling hairs. So in the way someone free from an eye disease sees falling hairs. In other words, the absence of falling hairs. Okay, question. Someone asked a question. Would not an ultimate nature with an aspect like that be quite impossible to see? The answer, true. However, they see by way of not seeing. The Buddhas see by way of not seeing. Okay, this is a there's this very famous quote that Gingasla quoted a lot when we studied the Madhyamika. They're seeing by way of not seeing, in other words. This passage means that Buddhas see the ultimate nature of the aggregates by way of not seeing conventional truth, the aggregates. So they see the lack of inherent existence of the truck by way of not seeing the truck. That is to say, they directly realize the aggregate's emptiness of inherent existence by way of a vanishing of the appearance of conventional truth. Therefore, seeing by way of not seeing is not a contradiction, because that which is seen, the aggregate's emptiness of inherent existence, ultimate truth, and that which is not seen, the aggregate's conventional truth, are different. So seeing by way of not seeing means seeing the ultimate truth by way of not seeing the truck. Okay, let me continue. However, this does not mean that the Buddhas do not realize conventional truth, because Buddha's awarenesses non-conceptually or directly realize all ultimate truth by way of a vanishing of the appearance of conventional truth, and simultaneously, non-conceptually, realize all conventional truth by way of the appearing of conventional truth. Yeah? So it seems, just from the perspective of understanding the ultimate truth, from that perspective, they realize the ultimate nature of this truck. Right? From that perspective, they're non-dualistic. But from the perspective, so they have that non-dualistic aspect to their mind. There's another aspect to their mind from whose perspective they also perceive the conventional truth by way of the appearance of the truck. Therefore, there's no contradiction saying that the Buddha's mind is non-dualistic, but at the same time also perceives conventional truth. Now, our minds can't do that. They do either one or the other. So the Buddha's mind is non-dualistic with regard to the realization of the ultimate truth of this truck. Because with regard to perceiving the ultimate nature of this truck, with regard to that, the truck doesn't appear. It's non-dualistic. With regard to that, the mind merges as if water being poured into water. But with regard to perceiving the truck itself, they perceive the truck with the truck appearing. So there's two sides to the mind. This is how the Buddha's mind can perceive both truths. And as Vardha pointed out, and this is really difficult, I really didn't put this in here, but this is very true actually. Okay, conventional truths are merely imputed. Who imputes? Does the Buddha impute?
Conventional mind.
Only sentient beings impute. So therefore, conventional truths are dependent on sentient beings. Therefore, The Buddha appears conventional truth because of everything that appears to sentient beings. Through the power of what appears to sentient beings, the Buddha perceives conventional truth because they rely on the imputation. Of course, emptiness also relies on imputation. It does too. But the emptiness is the underlying ultimate nature of all phenomena. This does not appear to the Buddha by way of sentient beings, but the conventional truth appears through the force of sentient beings. Now this is really weird.
Because the emptiness has a real nature.
Yeah, it's the underlying kind of real nature. But never mind. I mean, this is a little hard to understand. I find that very difficult. I can just say it. I've memorized it. Doesn't mean I understand it.
Why isn't it easier than, or more understanding than saying he sees it directly? I never understood how he can see it directly if it doesn't exist. I can only understand that he sees it through my mind, because I see it.
Wait. Nora's question is, how can he see something that doesn't exist?
How can he see it directly, something that I impute, and it's...
But because you impute it exists, this truck exists. Because it's merely imputed, it exists. But okay, being imputed doesn't mean it exists, sorry. If I impute a snake on the rope, it doesn't mean that's really a snake. But there are things that are existent, still merely imputed. And because they exist, the Buddha perceives them. Okay, I'm not saying the non-existent things. This is validly a truck because it is imputed and performs the function. Okay, I have a basis of imputation, which is the parts of a truck. It functions as a truck. What we have agreed on being a truck. All right, as a society, we have agreed. Well, imagine this is a real truck. Actually, this is a toy truck. We keep saying truck, but we should really visualize a real truck here. So, this truck, this real truck, it performs a certain function, and we have agreed as a society, if something performs that function, we call it a truck. All right, we have done that. And that is enough for the truck to be a truck. Now, I could be wrong, not knowing that connection between the truck. I mean, there's certain society who may call this something else, then it's a totally different matter. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, as a group of people, we decided on certain characteristics and features, certain da-da-da. On the basis of that, I call this a truck. Then it's a truck. It's still fabricated by sentient beings. It's fabricated. It's brought into existence by us. But that doesn't mean it's not existent. That's all it needs to be existent. If it is imputed, it doesn't exist inherently. Then it exists. We give to existence, for us, existence must be truly existent.
No, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said doesn't exist, is not exist. I should have said it's not exist the way I see it. And in order for a Buddha to see it the way I see it, he cannot see it directly because it doesn't exist the way I see it.
He doesn't perceive an inherently existent truck. What do you perceive? You perceive an inherently existent truck. The Buddha does not perceive an inherently existent truck.
But he perceives it the way I see it. Because
he perceives what you perceive. In other words, he is aware of your perception.
Yes.
There's a difference.
Through my mind.
Okay, let's say I have clairvoyance, okay? And Miri has falling hair. Falling hair appears to her mental consciousness, or to her eye consciousness, okay? If I have clairvoyance, to my mind, the floating hair does not appear. But to my mind, I'm aware what appears to you.
But what do you see?
I see the absence of falling hair.
What do you see? You see absence of something.
I see it in a merely imputed truck. I perceive the truck, a merely imputed truck. I perceive that truck. A merely imputed truck exists. That's what I perceive. If I was a Buddha, I perceived a merely imputed truck.
You see the same picture?
No, because your truck is mixed with inherent existence. The Buddha's truck is not. I don't know. I mean, what does the Buddha perceive? This I can't tell. I don't know what it's like to perceive a non-inherently existent truck. I don't know.
We're trying to imagine a world where there are no sentient beings, but we perceive the truck as an inherent existent. But then, in that case, the Buddha wouldn't be here. So as long as we're here,
it's our imagination.
So then the Buddha would see the imputed truck.
The Buddha could still perceive the truck that sentient beings previously who were there perceived.
Yeah.
Right? The ones from the past. Even all sentient beings are enlightened. The Buddha still perceives what previously sentient beings perceived, if you want to go that far. But I mean, it doesn't need to be discussed. This is not, okay? Anyway, we're almost done. Just the last passage.
Can you emphasize again the duality along duality?
Okay, let's just read through the end and then I'll say it again. However, this does not mean that the Buddha's... Oh, I didn't actually finish that. Therefore, Buddha's minds realize ultimate truth by way of a vanishing of dualistic appearances. That is to say, they realize ultimate truth non-dualistically. At the same time, they realize conventional truth by way of an association with dualistic appearances. Like having dualistic appearances. I mean, in other words, conventional truth appear. That's it.
So conventionally, the conventional truth does appear in a dualistic way.
Yeah, dualistic just means that there's an appearance of a conventional truth. Dualistic doesn't mean something bad. Okay? It can mean that inherent existence appears, but that's not the dualistic appearance here. If a conventional truth appears, then it's a dualistic appearance. Dual just means not just ultimate truth, but also number 2, dual, conventional truth. So we sometimes say dualistic mind is bad when we say inherent existence appears. That doesn't have the kind of negative connotation here of a dualistic mind because of inherent existence appearing. But just from the point of view of having conventional truth appearing, you could say it's a dualistic mind with regard to that. Not just in that regard. Okay? So it just depends how you define dualistic appearance or dualistic kind of mind.
You didn't finish.
I didn't finish?
No, now you have to say the first line of the stanza of the next lesson that you give us next year.
I only know that I have to read the beginning of the text again, but since this is not a text that, like usually you have a text by a master and then you read the beginning again, but this is just something I put together, so I don't do that in that case. And about teaching what I will teach I haven't heard of that tradition, and I don't know what I will do, so... Anyway. All right. We have a little bit time of questions. Do we have a little bit time for questions? Yes. Okay. Let's take some time for questions. Of course, if people need to leave, you're welcome to. But I'd like to take some questions now. Well, no. I have some questions. I hope the person is still here who gave me this question. Do you believe, after years of practice, that everything that happens, even long time and hard suffering, is for the good? The universe is always friendly, ? No matter what. If yes, is it out of practice, or do you have to believe it in some way also? Thank you. Is the person who's written that question... I can't ask if they want to be anonymous. Okay, never mind. I hope the person is still here. I wanted to answer this, and I kind of left it a little bit. But here it's saying, after years of practice. Well, first of all, years of practice... practice is relative, okay? I mean, I try my best, but really practice is no. But anyway, that everything that happens, even long time and hard suffering, is for the good. Actually, the reason I set out on the Buddhist path is to overcome suffering. So it's not like, please, suffering, stay with me because it's good for me. It's like, I want to overcome suffering. But as long as I have suffering, I can utilize this. I can utilize it. I can take the positive side of that. I can learn from that. So the idea is not, when our suffering comes, as long as it's there, though, the goal is to overcome it. But in the meantime, when suffering still arises, which you will do, to deal with it in the most effective way. To transform it into spiritual practice. So instead of getting angry, to see, all right, this is an opportunity to practice patience. What is suffering? If someone says, I suck, right? I suffer. I have a self-cherishing mind, and I don't want people to say that. So, I suffer. But I could say, all right, thank you so much. Ideally, I'm just saying ideally. Thank you very much. You're such a, this person, I think, thank you very much. I may still discipline the person, right? Outwardly, out of concern, because if they say these things, well, it's something that harms them actually. So again, compassion, oftentimes compassion, think my external behavior is compassion. It's a state of mind. Right? A state of mind. If I can react out of love and compassion, it's a state of mind. But it means I still discipline them. I may still do, I don't let them get away. If someone robs a jewelry store, let's say the mom is not, I still put them in prison. It harms themselves. They need to learn that stealing has consequences. Right? So then I still punish them. But I can do so with a mind that doesn't become angry. Right? So, suffering, usually it induces anger. The feeling of displeasure in its coarsest form, suffering, pain, misery, it induces anger. So then I can try and not become angry and practice patience. Right? So therefore, as long as it's there, I can do it for the good. I can utilize it for the good. I can try. I mean, it sounds very easy. It's not that I can do this, but ideally, that's what I aim for. Is the universe always friendly? Well, no, the universe is not friendly because it's inanimate. It's not, it's inanimate. What's friendly? Friendly, a person is friendly. So the universe, I don't say it's friendly. It's not friendly or unfriendly. It's just neutral. However, I think I know what he means. I think, are sentient beings, is there a goodness? I believe that sentient beings are inherently, I want to use the word inherently. And I'm so limited, so not in the inherently, but they're naturally good. I really believe that they're naturally good people. That we have this bowl of crystal, like this crystal bowl is our actual nature. But it's obscured temporarily by our self-cherishing. It's because we misperceive something that doesn't exist. Therefore we do all these things, driven by that mind. We're really driven by that mind. But we can understand that this is not the case, and we can generate wisdom. We have all the seeds of potential. So I believe sentient beings are naturally good. Right? And I believe you can see the good in everything. I mean, it's relative, because it's relative. I can see it from one perspective. I can see it as good, as positive, as negative, or neither. It's totally up to my perceptive. Glass is half full, the glass is half empty, or it's kind of middle way. Right? I mean, it's relative. Everything is relative. So therefore, it depends on my perception. Okay? Therefore, thus, it just depends on me, how I perceive it. I'm in charge. My mind, I can just learn to control my mind to see the positive and see how I can learn to eventually overcome suffering, of course. Is it out of practice, or you have to believe in some way? Well, in my case, it's more belief. Practice, first you start off with belief. It's like, I trust that the Buddha knew what he was talking about. Some things I can come to understand. The truth, the suffering of suffering, for example. He talked about that comes from anger. Well, I know that. So there's certain things I know from my own experience. Other things I take temporarily on faith. Okay? This is with science. Certain things we know. Therefore we trust scientists, because other things we can't know, but we take in on faith temporarily. Same I do. So it's not blind faith. It is rational faith. It's faith based on reasoning. It's believing. Okay? Believing in something. So in my case, most of it is belief. Okay? I believe in past and future lives. But I don't know. I have no idea. But I try to live accordingly. Okay? Again, for me, there's also just a 50% chance. Honestly, it's like I believe in it, but every time I see some article that talks about a child remembering past life and it's really amazing or something, like I go, wow, there really is past and future life. I mean, I'm still amazed. I'm not amazed at knowing the sun goes up in the east. I know 100%. So when someone tells you, the sun goes up in the east, I go, yeah, right, so. But if someone tells me about past and future lives, I see a documentary about this child that knows these amazing things. The Boy That Remembers. There's a documentary that I have. It's called The Boy That Remembers. Really fascinating. Anyway, it talks about this boy who remembers things about... He was his own grandfather, right? I mean, the grandfather had died and he was reborn as this little boy. And he knew things about the grandfather that they had kept totally secret. Anyway, never mind. So he knew these things and he talked about it. He knew so much. And I thought, whoa, maybe there really is past and future, So I catch myself thinking that all the time. Which means I only have believe in it. It's probably this 50% chance thing.
It's a bit contradicting to the gross mind that doesn't go forward.
Why is it? No. It's not contradictory. Okay, this is a good thing he's saying. Sometimes we take memory with us to the next life. How? Even though the coarse mind is, I'm not sure how it exactly works, but I've asked some of my teachers about this, especially when there is an accident, when you die very quickly. One of my favorite stories, maybe just to share this with you just quickly, is a story of a little boy in India who was born in a village, and ever since he was a little boy, he was scared of tractors. No one knew why. He was petrified upon seeing tractors. It was just an Indian newspaper, because it's just fact of life. He remembers his past life, big deal. So then he said to his parents, my name is actually so-and-so. And I live in this village. And these were, simple Indians, not knowing much about what was going on around them, at least not what are the different villages in a certain distance. So they did some research and they found there was a village, such as he described. And they went there, they took him there one day, and he said, my father's name is so-and-so, my mother's name is so-and-so. And so and he said, my father is a tailor and he works in this little shop. So they went to this shop, and there was a shop, but it was closed, it was locked down. So they asked the local people, who is in there? Is there not a tailor in there? And they said, yeah, there used to be a tailor in there, but his little boy was killed in a tractor accident. And so ever since that, the family's been so sad, so he closed down, he couldn't work anymore. So they asked for the address, and they took the little boy there, and they was like, there's my mama, there's my daddy, that's my sister, my brother. He could describe everything. Right? And so there's a picture of him in his previous life, with a mum of his previous life, and then him there. And I got that picture and I cut it out, and it's in one of my books. Anyway, never mind. So maybe I can make it available, because it's kind of interesting, the whole story. But here, the point is, he died suddenly. So a lot of times when someone dies in an accident, it is possible that even the mind absorbs so quickly, that maybe some of the imprints are kind of passed over. I don't know how it works, but I got that explanation, especially when there's a sudden death, that the mind absorbs so rapidly, the coarser mind, so rapidly in the subtler mind, that something is carried over. It would explain that. And there's also a story in India, there was someone who was killed by her husband. There was a woman who was killed by her husband. She was pushed out of a train. And the police could never prove it. And that girl was reborn, I think, as a little boy. And when she could speak, she started talking about being killed by her husband. And she was able to provide the evidence to the police to arrest him. It's not that her evidence is saying they didn't believe just that, but she was able to provide, what's the word for it? Evidence that you cannot doubt.
How did it?
Incontrovertible. Unrefutable kind of. So he was prosecuted because of that. So it was a sudden death, and she remembered, and she said, this is the guy who killed me. Well, hypnosis is very interesting, yeah. Some people do remember. I don't know how that works.
I saw him.
You saw it yourself?
Brian Weiss, a psychiatrist. He's taking people in the most ex-famous people. And in 5 minutes, everyone remembers, and every time another lifetime.
Previous life?
I mean, I don't know about that. I heard about hypnosis, but I don't know how that works, because the coarse mind is gone. Maybe the imprints are still there, but on a subtler level. I mean, actually, it's said that when you're Buddha, you know all your past life. And even sometimes with clairvoyance, you know your past. Oh, well, that's more because of the clairvoyance. But yeah, maybe it's the imprints actually do go quite deep, and we can connect with them. I don't know how it really works. Anyway, I guess that becoming very chatty. So anyway, this is the answer to your question. Okay. So here, Doron is basically saying the analysis of parts in space and time concludes that nothing can occupy space or time. Okay, this is not what I said. Phenomena do occupy time and space, but they do not do truly. Okay, this is your question down here. Does not mean you cannot precisely measure. So precisely, exactly the time, exactly that you cannot, because that would be inherently. But conventionally, it occupies time and space. Does that explain that? Conventionally, it does, but truly, it doesn't occupy time and space. Okay. And then you're saying about the continuum of the mind. How can that be the person? How can the I be the continuum? We don't remember the previous life. It's a continuum of mind. And sometimes we're aware, sometimes we're not. Well, it doesn't mean you have to be aware. The I is imputed on the basis of a continuum of mental consciousness, right? That's what we impute, not just on the mental consciousness. We also impute it, of course, on the body and the sense consciousness. But when you die, it's imputed on the mental consciousness, because that is the only thing that leaves, and the subtle energy wins. On the basis of that, you impute person, I. And you may not be aware of that, but it doesn't mean you have to be in every moment be aware. Like when you fall into deep sleep, it's not you become non-existent. It's not that you become non-existent. Retrospectively, you can say, I did so-and-so, so you impute. you can impute retrospectively. For example, the first Dalai Lama was not called Dalai Lama. The first Dalai Lama, Yendung Gyatso, he was a disciple of Lama Tsongkhapa. He was only called Dalai Lama with which Dalai Lama? Yes, the third one. The third one, I think it was. The one who went to Mongolia. So the third Dalai Lama, he was called Dalai Lama, and then retrospectively, number 1 and 2 were called Dalai Lama. So these were Dalai Lama 1 and 2. You can impute, you don't have to do it in that moment. You can do even in retrospect. All right? So even later on you can say, oh, that time it was me. So you're imputing.
If I understand correctly, then the only difference between a stranger and next life of myself is that the second carries karmic seeds.
Yes, absolutely.
That have not ripened.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
the only difference.
Well, it's a continuum of your mind, it's like a continuation of your mind that goes on. It carries the imprints, it carries the material, it goes on. One moment gives rise to the next, gives rise to the next, gives rise to the next. It's an unbroken continuum that has existed since beginning this time and will exist eternally. And that, on the basis of that, you yourself impute I. Not at all times, because you're not always aware of it, but still, that would be what we call the I of Duran.
But my problem is linking between I and mind. At the moment, that as limited as I am, I can connect someone's mind with him by the fact that he reacts to something sensual. If I hit him with the hammer on the finger, then he shouts or jumps or something. There's no way that I can link the I to that future life.
I mean, why not? Because you see, the future life is the result of what the person did in this life. The thoughts they thought, you see, like there's this mental continuum and there's thoughts that are being produced, they leave imprints, and then they're responsible for, again, future thoughts. They rise as future thoughts, and again, future thoughts. So this continuum, it's this continuum of water, sometimes in different containers. But the same stream of water, let's say you have like a certain bowl of water, which is like the mind. Okay, it's a continuum. One moment gives rise to the next. Sometimes some pollution comes in. Then that pollution, if the water itself can purify itself, then it goes out. And the water, it just gives one moment. It doesn't. There's no disruption of the continuum.
The water are already gone. The thoughts that I have now are not the thoughts that the other life, the next life will have.
The thoughts you had an hour ago are not the thoughts you have right now. Forget about future life.
So the water is gone.
The water's not gone. The water has changed into different water.
Changed, right. The water
has changed. Every moment you change.
Water. And the only thing is that he will, for good and bad, have the result of what I have accumulated.
Okay, I think your problem is that for something to exist today and tomorrow has to be permanent. It seems that it has to be permanent. It has to be exactly the same today as it was tomorrow. But actually, you change every moment. Every moment is a different person. Really, that's why there's no inherently existent I. It seems to be something there. The moment you got into this classroom until now, there seems to be this permanent continuity. But really what it is just one moment giving rise to the next, giving rise to the next. But, for example, there's a difference between a pear tree becomes a pear seed becomes a pear tree. They're one continuum. An apple seed does not become a pear tree. They're not one continuum. Therefore, your thoughts yesterday give rise to your thoughts today, just as the pear seed gives rise to the pear tree. My thoughts do not give rise to your thoughts. So we have a different continuum. But other than that, you're right. Each moment is uniquely different. It gives rise to the next, gives rise to the next, it gives rise to the next, gives rise to the next, and continues on. But we're under the delusion that even though this happens with the mind, there's one continuing I that continues on, right? So you're looking for the first time at that which exists, the basis of invitation, and for you it's impossible, because how could there not be something permanent and inherent? Well, that's how we exist. We're a train of thought, a train of a body, but still it functions. It's still a very well function. We can communicate, we can love, we can be kind, so it works. I mean, from a scientific point of view, What is the I? From a scientific point of view, there's really, if you just thought the person was the brain, again, there's no room for something permanent there. It's just chemical processes, you know, things reacting, acting. There's nothing permanent sitting there. It just works really well. It works without a controller. It just works, right? It's just the body does its own thing. It doesn't need someone to say, okay, enzyme number 1, go here. You know, we have a sense there must be someone pulling the things at the machine. Okay, blood, go here, do this. Okay, now brain, here, do this. It just works. It just does its thing. Likewise, from a Buddhist point of view, speaking less of the brain as such, speaking of the mind, one thought giving rise to the next, and that's thing this and that. And you know, every thought leaves an imprint, something new comes in, external conditions, they all work together. So it's just causes and conditions just working really nicely. They do it, they don't need a self. But we want it to be, we believe it to be there. Doesn't make it true, right? Okay, and otherwise it wouldn't be a problem. If it was just be there, if I feel happy about it, great, but it causes me to suffer. If it didn't cause me to suffer, I didn't have to sit here. Okay, accept an I. Who cares what I accept? I can believe in a transparent baby that I'm holding and taking care of. But because it harms me, right? That's why the Buddha talked about it. That's why we discuss it now. Anyway, it's difficult. It's hard. Anything else? I've done those papers. Any more questions? Otherwise, we go home. That's so sweet. Very straightforward. Okay, yes. Okay, all right then. Let's leave it at that. We will do the dedication. Yes, the final dedication. Let's do that.
Yeah. Okay, so
Rachel, today in English and remembering the kindness of His Holiness.
kindness of His Holiness, but then also the long life for the long life.
Page 13.
So if we do page 12. About bodhicitta. May the precious body-mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. And then you can think of all your teachers, not just His Holiness the Dalai Lama, for them to have long lives. We do the long lives, and here I have a special dedication, especially for the quick and full recovery of